We are live. We are live on the Jeff Nosine podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lopes. Super excited to have on today Mr. Smiley himself, Jay Jackson. What is up, brother?
What's going on, Jeff?
This is going to be a fun conversation. We just, I guess, our paths collide on social media. I'm a
Yeah.
Toronto boy, Jay's fan. Jay just finished his season in Toronto, which I thought it was an incredible season. Like you did really, really, really well. I couldn't understand. I guess it's a numbers game why you were being sent up and down because every time you're up, you just performed. Every time it was just calm, cool, smiley, collective, and you just did your shit. And I could never understand like the reasoning you were getting even more playing time because every time you just performed. So let's talk about before we went on live, we were talking about just players and the Major League Baseball system and how sometimes it's not fair, and you feel like how are these guys getting not an opportunity when they're studs, but that Major League team just paid a ton of money for some prospect, and people
Yeah.
keep getting bumped back. So we're gonna talk about that later on in the podcast. But I want our audience to learn about you, Jay. Like where you grew up, how'd you fall in love with baseball? When did you start playing baseball? Let's go. Give me a little kind of a little Cole's note of just you growing up and how you fell in love. And was this something that was in the family lineage? Like where did baseball come into your life?
It's crazy. I guess I'll give a quick little synopsis of it. Grew up in Greenville, South Carolina, born and raised in Greenville, South Carolina. Dad, mom were both athletes in their younger days. My mom played softball. My dad was a great basketball player, but played multiple sports, played football, baseball, basketball. When he was in college, he actually got into tennis a little bit. And then once he left college and he started messing around with me more, we lived on a golf course. So he started playing golf. So, but dad's always been an athletic person, and just, I guess it just kind of fell to me next. So I just started playing baseball. And my parents like to say that in my crib when I was born, there was a baseball, a basketball, and a football, and like a little basketball goal that they put up. So I guess it was just destined to a certain degree. But as I got older, I think I turned 3 or 4, and my dad took me out to t-ball. And next thing I know, I was playing t-ball and basketball my whole, like, just playing baseball, basketball, like my whole life after that, from t-ball to coach's pitch to what little minors to little majors and whatnot. I actually was a couple steps away from being in the Little League World Series. My team actually went to the Southeastern Regional for the Little League long time ago. God, that was so long time ago, and we lost in the semis. So I was close to being in the Little League World Series, so that would have been kind of a fun story too. But it just baseball's just been my love. Baseball and basketball have just always been my loves, and I think it just helps that my parents. I spent a lot of time around. My dad would go play pickup games at the gym sometimes. My mom, I would go watch her softball games, like her co-ed softball games. She played throughout my whole childhood until she I think she tore her ACL or dislocated her meniscus or something. She like dislocated her knee or something. She had like a really bad knee thing from sliding in the second base one game, and then she didn't go get it fixed, and she just stopped playing softball. So
Yeah.
I guess I just had to keep it going for her. It's been a whirlwind. It's been a journey. It's been so much fun. I've loved it. I've grown to love it more and more every year, every day. So hopefully I can pass it along to whoever else is next.
So it's incredible that you're saying that your passion because I've become friends with we talked about this prior Shea Hillebrand, and he went on by like a lot of his talks and his motivational speaking he does now, and he does a lot of touring, and a big thing he talks about is how he fell out of love with the game as the game
Yeah.
progressed. He started losing that childhood passion, and it looks the opposite with you because even when you signed with the Jays, what I read was it wasn't even a money thing. It wasn't going to the minors up. You just wanted to be around this team. You thought this team had a chance to win. It was giving you an opportunity. And it's like that love, that passion, that drive, that every time you get on the mound, that smile, like I'm here. How, how do you still have that? Like what's in you that still has that? Like you still love it. And you're 36. You're
I
not a
mean,
spring chicken anymore.
I lost it. I mean, just like Shay talks about, like you
Yeah.
lose it from time to time. And you have to like find a way to love it again, or something will click into you to love it again. And if you lose it and you don't get it back, then I tell people all the time, if you don't love it, then like leave, like go do something that you love to do. Don't waste that time and that energy. But it's almost like, I mean, in a marriage, like you have to find ways to love each other. or relationships. You have to find ways to love each other. You're not going to love each other every day, right?
Yeah.
There's going to be different points in times where you're going to be like, like I really don't like you right now. Just like in baseball, there's been plenty of days I've been like, really don't like you. Like I don't want to be here. But there's other days that make it so much worth it. And then I think there's a big turning point in my career, my life was like it was I was getting married a long time ago to my ex-wife, and I was just laying in bed and I just asked God, like, hey, if this is the baseball is what you want me to do, then show me the way, give me a sign. And just talking to him, and like I was like, if you do, then I will never take this for granted again. I will enjoy every minute I have. I will continuously be there, be present, and enjoy these moments because you don't get a lot of them. And it was after one of the minor league years, and minor league players, we don't get paid a ton. So I'm getting married, have a family, don't have a lot of money. I was supposed to go to winter ball, but one of the deals fell through, and you make a lot more money in winter ball, at least to keep you afloat during the off season.
Yeah.
And I just asked him, and the next morning got a phone call from my agent. And he was like, "Hey, we're gonna send you to Mexico for winter ball." And I was like, "All right." I was like, I'm getting married in a couple months too, right? They're like, "You'll get your wedding dates off, blah blah blah. You'll get a couple days off, and they're gonna pay you for those days too, just like they want you down there." I'm like, "All right, like we're gonna enjoy baseball. This is what I'm supposed to do now, I guess so. So we're gonna enjoy the rest of it, no matter what happens." And there's a lot of dark days, but again, I try to make sure I'm a light for these other guys too. You know what I mean? Like they're gonna have bad days, but if I can teach those younger guys how to enjoy these games and these moments too, then hopefully their careers will be a lot better than mine, and they don't fall out of love with baseball, kind of like other guys have had to, in the past to rekindle a fire, and they can just keep that fire the whole career.
You got drafted by the Cubs. How was that day? Do you have memories of that day? That must have been
Honestly, or like
yeah,
the
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
correct answer for the
No,
Cubs people.
honestly,
No, it
honestly.
was honestly, I didn't even know I got drafted. Because I went on the second day, I believe. I think I went on the second day.
Yeah.
I was projected to go on the first day from everything I heard from my agents because the year I had in college that year was pretty good. I think I had like a 3-1 as a weekend starter for our team that we placed pretty decent in our conference. Plus, I was hitting as a outfielder, DH, first baseman. And I had hit like 330 or something too in college with a couple of homers. And I actually that season had the last, I think, 3 weeks of the season, I couldn't hit, but I could pitch because I had got a laceration on my glove hand, and I had to get like 15 stitches. So I couldn't hit because I couldn't grip a bat, but I could pitch because I could just stick my hand in the glove and throw. Um, and I was projected to go on the first day, and then didn't go the first day. And I was like, okay, got a bunch of phone calls from teams like, hey, you're going to be our first pick in the next round of the second day, et cetera, et cetera. I was like, all right, like at least like there's some interest, blah blah. Next round for the second day comes, don't hear anything. Next round again, like I think it was like the seventh round, the sixth or seventh round. I was just like, what? I'm turning this off. I turned everything off because we had a draft party for me and my family. Turned everything off, and I got a text message from one of my friends. Was like, "Congratulations, you're a Chicago Cub." And I was like, "What?" They're like, "Yeah, you just got drafted." I'm like, I didn't even know. So that was my draft day.
Seriously, was there any explanation why you dropped so far down?
There's never really explanations of anything that they only give you explanations that they want to give you. But some people said it was because of the conference I was in, but yet and still we played against the Clemsons, the USCs, the Kentuckys. I pitched against those guys, the Tennessees. I played against all those guys and still put up numbers against them every year I was in baseball. But it was they always came up with something else.
You were a starter obviously through college, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. So
Started
when you
through
got
college, and then
drafted, when you got drafted, that was obviously as a pitcher. That's your original goal is to be a starter.
Well, yeah. I was actually going to try to stay in school another year so I could hit because I liked hitting. Like I loved playing outfield. I love being an everyday player. Honestly, when I was coming up,
yeah.
Just because I felt like I could help the team every day. It wasn't just like I start one day and then like I get to watch 4 days. I felt like if I played every day, I could help every day, and I felt like we had a better chance to win if I played and I helped every day. So my original goal was to try to do both. Like I wanted to be like a pitch hitter, etc.
The original Shohei Ohtani.
I wanted to, and then I got drafted as a pitcher, and they let their I was going to be a starter, and I went to a National League team. So I was like, okay, this works. I'll go because I get to hit when I do get to pitch.
Yeah.
And I think my first official at bat in Double A, I had a home run. So I mean, I have a couple minor league home runs anyway. So like, I wasn't a terrible hitter, but my goal was just like, yeah, I wanted to start. Like it's, I mean, I came in as a starter, and then I started up until 2014, I believe.
Yeah.
14, 15, yeah, somewhere in there. I spent half my career's been a starter, half my career's been a reliever. So it's been interesting.
You went through how many years in the minors before you decided to go to try Japan? Yeah, like
I
how
think it
many
was
years were
8.
you? 80 years in this. So it was a
I think it was
grind.
8.
Were you?
I
Were
got
you playing
called up.
up? Were you? How many times were you called up during that process?
None. The only time is I got a September call up that year before I left to go to Japan. So I left to go to Japan in 2016. 2015 was my first call up, and that was that September. And it's actually funny because like I didn't think I was going to get called up either,
Yeah.
because they didn't call us the day of the end of the season. They let like guys that went home, and it was like the next day. Then they called us and like, oh, these certain guys are going up. And I had had a better year, mostly earlier throughout the year, than I did during that September anyway. Before they called me up, so it was just kind of funny. It was weird. It was a weird call up, and then got called up and was in Mexico when playing winter ball when my agent asked me if I was ready to go to Japan. So yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. So your contract with the major league team had ended already when you went to Japan, or you guys?
No,
So
I same thing
they
that
allowed you to just kind of go like they do with the winter.
somewhat, somewhat. Yeah, it was a they had to the team in Japan had to buy me out sort of thing,
Yeah.
I guess. And I think at the first couple of times, I don't know if they told them yes or no. Like I know the process took longer than when they just let you go. It was more like,
Through those 8 years in the minors, like where was your mindset? Like, was there ever like obviously I'm assuming there was moments where you're like, this isn't happening. Because that's a grind, 80 years in the minor league system where it's bus rides, it's crappy sharing motels, it's eating junk food, it's
yeah,
you're not probably optimizing your body as a proper athlete.
no,
You're putting
not
your
at
body, you're training. The off season, most of the time, I'm assuming you got a job just to make ends meet.
all. Yeah,
Where was your mindset? Like you obviously had a love for it to continue going, which all these guys do. We have another local kid here too, which I became friends with, Zach Fascia. He's playing high A ball now with Cleveland, and is a
oh, awesome.
catcher, and didn't get
Catchers have
drafted.
it the toughest.
Yeah. He ended up just not getting drafted, getting signed, because his draft year was during the COVID and everything went haywire. And
Yeah,
so he got signed the next year, and he's been 2 years now in the minor league system. He's loving it because he's living his dream, but it's a long, hard grind, especially when you look at an organization that already have a handful of stud catchers in their system.
100%.
So when you're going through that system for 8 years, like, was there moments where like I deserve to be up there? I deserve to be up there. Like, why am I not getting that push?
Oh, 100%. You always have those. I mean, I feel like everybody has those in every facet of their life to a certain degree. Like you wonder why, and
Yeah.
you ask why, and like you try to find the answers, and sometimes there's no answers. Most of the time, and especially in this profession, there aren't answers that you want to hear, or there's not answers. You just kind of just fall wherever they want you to fall. But my mindset was just I was just going to enjoy it. There's a bunch of times. There's a few times I was ready to retire, ready to quit, but luckily, I have my family. I have a huge support system, and, the belief in the man upstairs to help get us through everything that we do. And just knowing that they told me, like, he's not going to put more on you than you can handle. So
Yeah.
as long as you're enjoying it, and you're putting up the numbers and they're giving you a chance, like, and you're having fun, then we're going to be here to support you and help you get through this. And I'm so lucky I had those people, because I know a lot of guys don't. And that's kind of, a benefit for me. And I thank my family for that every day.
When you got Japan, I mean, that's a huge, incredibly big, massive move. I mean, you're literally moving into a different country, different culture, different language. I'm assuming you went by yourself. You didn't bring anybody with you. Did you have hesitation in doing that, or was this like, this is a great opportunity? This is going to be fun.
That was it. Like There was no hesitation. Like I told him, I was like, all right, when do I leave? Like the only
Yeah.
thing that stopped me from leaving sooner was because I had asked the team if I could stay in Mexico to make sure my team there got to the playoffs first. Like I was like, can I pitch the like last week to make sure like we lock this thing up before I leave?
Yeah.
And they were like, no, like if we're gonna sign you, we're gonna pay you this much money, like you got to go now.
Was the
So
pay a lot better than you're making here locally?
100%, yeah, I was making at the time more than league minimum here.
Yeah.
And I think at the time league minimum here was like half a mil or something like that. And I
Yeah.
immediately I went from being in the minors for 8 years to getting a September call up, barely making anything, which but it was nice,
Yeah.
to making more than league minimum when I haven't had an opportunity to even be in big leagues really. So like yeah, it was definitely more. It was a change, but it was for me, like I said, it was the opportunity.
Yeah.
It was the opportunity to go somewhere new, play baseball, be myself, and go create just a whole like go try to just have fun somewhere else. Go take baseball somewhere else. I mean, I've played in so many random places that
Were
going
you a
to
starter there, or were you a
no,
bullpen?
I was a reliever. It was my second full year being a reliever, so it was
It
kind of
was.
fun.
How are I mean, the fan base there is incredible, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah,
It's a
love
different
them.
world,
I
huh?
still, I still, I still love the fans over there, and I
Yeah.
still hear from some of the fans over there. They still, a lot of them still follow, which is crazy. Oh, but like, love them, love those people over there. Love the people I got to know so much over there that became fans not only of the team, but me personally, because I had a lot of people that would like find me personally, like on the street or at dinner or whatever, and meet me, and then they would just follow along with like my career and stuff after that, just because like it was more than baseball, and like they show so much respect and love for me over there. It was I love the fan bases over there. I'm surprised more guys don't like talk about how great the fan base is.
You were there for 4 years or 3?
Three the plus half of the COVID year. Yeah.
Now, what was your mindset coming back here? Like, if you're enjoying it so much, you're decently paid. When did you get that? You when you left there, you came straight back to the majors. So it was
No,
it was
I
back
had
to the
to
minors.
I had to redo everything. I had to start the grind all over again.
Seriously. So
That's what
where'd you start the grind again?
that was the frustrating part about everything that happened kind of in this time frame of my career,
Yeah.
is because I went to Japan and had such a I felt like a good to great stint in Japan,
Yeah.
that I didn't come back home straight to the majors like a lot of guys do.
Yeah.
Like I had to go to the minors, and then I had to go prove myself in the minors again just to get another shot in the majors.
What team signed you and you came back? What team were you playing the minors with?
The Brewers, when I first came back in
They're known
2019,
to
I signed with the Brewers.
Brewers are known to take a lot of guys from Japan.
Yeah, they normally do, and it was kind of weird that like I didn't have more interest in the first place.
Yeah.
And I was seeing just watching. I mean, you watch every year. I see some of the guys that sign compared to like me, and even during that time when I felt like I was in more of my dominant phase, and then seeing some of the guys sign, and then wondering why I wasn't and things. And then seeing guys after me, like you see Jolius Rodriguez, who came from Japan, who signed a big league deal right when he came back. You see Scott McGough, who did the same
Yeah.
thing. You see a couple guys who went to Korea and did it. And I was wondering, like, same thing. It's like, oh, whatever. But then going through it again, then getting the deal to go back to Japan, make more money, and then leaving Japan again, and then having to go through it all over again, and work my way back up again for a third time, pretty much after the second stint in Japan. It's it's been the journey. It's frustrating, but it's the journey.
When you I mean, the last 3 years, you've kind of established yourself.
I would hope so. It
And
doesn't seem like that at times, but I would.
where's your mindset going into this season? Have you signed with the team yet?
No, I haven't signed. Had a bunch of interest. Had a few teams tell me just straight up that I don't fit somehow. And then they go sign guys that have, like, don't have similar numbers or anything like that. So I mean, and for me, I think I don't know like what it is, but just right now I'm fine with whatever the man upstairs has me to do. Like I feel like I deserve and have earned, not deserved, but I feel like I've earned
No, I
a
think
major league deal.
I think you deserve it after what you did last season. And
I feel like,
I'm surprised when you look at the Jays roster and for what you put on their budget. I mean, it's a very small amount on their budget when you look at what you bring from the bullpen. I don't understand why they wouldn't resign you. And
I mean,
especially, yeah, go. Sorry.
I talked to Ross actually at the winter meetings, and I told him, I was like, I know you guys have like some holes you got to fill first. I mean, they gotta make up for Chappie. Like
Yeah,
that's a huge gap right there. And they signed Kiner, and but I mean, you see, they still got some holes. They got a DH. They still got to make up for it, which is going to take a large chunk and things that I told him. I was like, I know you guys have things that guys want to do first, and if I'm available, like I love being there. I loved everything I had, and like I said, I feel like over the past few years, I've earned that big league deal compared to some of the guys I've seen. And even though they're my friends and stuff, and even guys that aren't, like just the numbers wise, the track record wise, the resume wise, I feel like I've earned a shot to have a whole year up there guaranteed. But teams are going to feel how they want to feel. So I just kind of take it one day at a time. Hopefully, I hear something good soon. But if not, we're gonna go figure out what's next. There's the podcast realm that, like I said, we were talking about before we got on here. Like we're starting a podcast. I'm also going to do some public speaking and some motivational speaking for some people because they've asked me to at certain places, certain schools, and businesses and things of that nature. But just helping kids around the communities here. I have my baseball camp and helping kids in Utah, and Florida, and just different places. Like whatever is necessary for me to be happy and to make sure that people around me are happy is what's going to happen. You know what I mean? So the teams are, the ball's in their court. I'm ready. I've stayed ready every time I've ever been anywhere I've played. I've been ready. I've stayed ready. I'm working out every day. I'm throwing every day. So
physically, you're obviously in great shape, but mentally,
I
don't you feel like as you got older, you understand it more? Like you got a different feel, a different understanding of batters, and it's like you're a more refined wine. Like you could make things happen now, maybe physically not the way you could when you're 23 or 24, but you could do them at a different higher level because of your understanding of the game.
100%. And I feel like I haven't tailed off too much in my abilities. Like my fastball has been down a little bit, but I feel like that's just my body just figuring itself out because I've had some injuries over the past couple of years. I tore my hamstring in
what's
2021.
your fastball at now?
It was ranging between 92 and 94, 95 last year, and that's average that I've been at. But like I've had some years where it's been higher. Like I think 2 years ago it was a little bit higher, and 3 years ago it was a tick higher. But like again, that's me coming off a couple injuries. Tore my hamstring in 2021, tore my lat in 2022. So it's my body's trying to figure itself back out, but I feel really good. Ball's been coming out really good over the past couple of weeks. So we're gonna see what happens. Everything feels good. Slider's really good right now. So everything's right where it needs to be.
Let's dive into this. One thing we were talking about prior to going on air, and I was talking about a gentleman I had on the podcast, a local boy, Connor Panis, about certain guys just don't get the opportunities. And that's one thing you want to do with your podcast is bring that to light. Is certain guys, for some reason or not, don't get the opportunity. Let's talk about that because the minor league grind is not a fun grind. I mean, it's changed. The pay now has changed.
It's changed a lot.
It's
changed
changed
a lot.
I mean, like I said, when you talk about to local guys that 10, 15 years ago in the minor league system, if you're making like there's a guy that I've talked to quite a few times out on my podcast, Robbie Rowland. He's built a great social media following around himself with pitching, and he's actually playing in Mexico right now, winter ball. But I mean, these guys were. I mean, you're making $500, $700 a month.
You're making $1,200 a month. Like like that's the highest you're making. I think AAA. My last year before I became a free agent in AAA, I think I was making 2,400 before tax, but then we had to pay for our housing and clubby tips and all this other stuff too. You know what I mean? So we having to pay for everything, our own cars, everything our own. We didn't have like host families and stuff. You had those when you were coming up,
Yeah.
but that's when, like you said, you were making 7, 8, 900 bucks a month. So I mean, you didn't have a wage to actually have a place to live. So
It's just crazy when you think about the grind. I mean, it's changed now, guys. Obviously, with the CBA, like the guys are making a little bit more money now,
yeah,
union stuff like that. But still, it's still a grind as a pro athlete. It's still a grind when you're going
no,
to the off
100%.
season and you're looking for your own training. You're not the early spring training is not for quote unquote what they would call the grunts. It's not. It's they have their special guys that go in there, and everybody else find your way, find your training, right?
Yeah,
And you hear that a lot when you talk to these guys, and it's like, what has to change? And I think the only way this is going to change is having different opportunities like Japan, like Australia, like if the Dubai league really takes off, having different opportunities where guys could go somewhere else and make a decent living. And I think
100%.
that'll just open up the doors for a lot of these guys not giving up on their dreams at a very, very, very crucial part in their career, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you see, there's a lot of guys that actually go to Mexico now and play during the summer instead of staying over here.
Yeah.
But it's a choice that those guys make a lot of times. They're like, okay, if I go play in Mexico and I don't stay over here in the minors, there's probably a good chance that I'm not coming back. And that's tough for a lot of guys to make that choice because then you're like, pretty much like you say, you're giving up on your dream to be in the big leagues because you don't see them sign a lot of guys out of Mexico,
Yeah.
the summer ball team, and make it to the big leagues. There's been like maybe one in the past like 20 years. And I think
Yeah.
that was Yafet Amador, who I played against. Like,
Yeah.
but you don't see that. So, like, I know a bunch of my friends that I have that I've played with over the past few years. They're in Mexico now because you're making more money in Mexico during the summer a lot of times than you
What's
are
an average?
here.
What's an average monthly salary in Mexico during the summer?
I think like 6 to 8 like grand a month, like, but they pay for your housing and everything too, and you eat at the field and things of that nature. Like they take care of you a little bit.
So you're putting that all
And
in
the
your
competition,
pocket.
and you get, and every year you might have incentives too, and then you get to clubs, you get incentive money too, and then if you play well, you go to winter ball, you're making more in winter ball than too. So then you go to winter ball and you play well in winter ball, then the next summer you get to negotiate even higher. So you could be making 10 to 12 again, like, and you're getting taxed as, you know, different like tax brackets pretty much from wherever you're, whatever state you're in,
Which
instead
is
of it.
different. Which is a different. I mean, you're still not making major league numbers, but it's a good career. If you could play
Yeah,
baseball and you're making over 100 G's a year and you're doing something you love, it's you should be pretty
exactly.
happy for even if you do it for 5, 6 years, you're doing something you love, and then you could literally use that to catapult other opportunities, like you're saying, public speaking,
Exactly.
hockey, especially with social media. A lot of guys don't understand the power of social media, where building your brand. If you go in to a team in Mexico and you got 1 million followers, I mean, I guarantee you could be able to
They
sell
can work with
yourself.
you. Yeah.
Oh, of course they could work with you. They could work with your contract
This
because
is
you're bringing a lot more eyes to their platform, right? So I mean, social media, a lot of guys don't really understand or don't push or don't promote it enough to get to that level because it's free advertising for yourself.
it is. And I'm at fault because I haven't used it as much as I should. I probably should have over my career. I've always wanted to be that guy that just kind of just like stayed under the radar and
Which
just
is,
like played baseball.
I would say 90% of guys are like that in the Myers because they don't want to be the one that stands out with their teammates and all that
Exactly.
stuff. Yeah.
But now you see it and like you kind of, people are scouting because of social media more than actually going
100%.
to the games and seeing how
There
these guys play
there is a
multiple games. It's
local.
just seeing clips
Yeah.
of guys, and it's just like, oh, these are just your best clips. Those are 5 hits. Those might be the 5 hits that they've had over the past 3 months. But then they're getting signed because you're like, oh, his social media looks good. In the one game that the scout might have came to, he looked good. Like, so, and I want to be that guy. And then as I've gotten older and I've seen how these things are going now, it's like I don't want to be that guy that's like out there, but like you said, building a personal brand and making sure that, like, I feel like you're staying true to your personal brand is huge because you'll have people follow you because of that personal brand. Like for me, like I try to be as helpful and positive as I can to people. Like I said, like I can't take each day for granted because like you never know when the last one's going to be. And I try to be a positive influence to everybody because I know, and I've seen the other side of it. I've seen how people can be upset and how it drags other things down. So just me being that, like I said, I don't need to be out there, but I probably should have been more out there because I probably could have had more of a presence and I probably could have helped more people. But I just kind of like, I didn't want to be that person. at that point. But now I feel like I'm still not that person, but I want to be able to help more people at this.
Yeah, and I mean, you still have the opportunity. I mean, you're still relevant in your career. You're still relevant as a name. You really still brand and build it, and that whole mindset of that smiley face, and
Yeah,
it's a great branding thing, right, for you.
yeah,
And that,
hundred
and you
percent.
could and you could really just and you turn that around into, like you said, public speaking, the motivation, all that stuff like that. So it can work out perfectly for you if you do it right at this point, which I think you have the
Hopefully,
opportunity.
we're hoping so. We're gonna, like I said, whatever the next step is, I'm gonna be ready for it. It's just I want to make sure that, like I said, the people around me and myself, we're happy with it and that we're enjoying it. Like I said, I don't want to do anything I'm not enjoying. I don't want to feel forced to do anything. I don't like right now during this whole free agency process. Like some people are getting nervous, but I'm just sitting there. I'm like, you know what? Like I've been through it so many times that like it's fine. Like you just take one day at a time. You just enjoy each day, whatever we can take control of, especially having JR home. Like I'm not worried about a single thing right now. I'm enjoying having him here and being able to cuddle him and be able to just swing him around and have his little fat cheeks all up on me as much as I can.
Yeah, dad life. I mean, that's a yeah. How old are your oldest ones? Your
We
obviously
have
your
a
stepkids
14,
are 14 and
14 and 8.
yeah.
And then I have my son in Japan. He's 5. He just turned 5
How's that
a
relationship?
couple
I
weeks
mean,
ago.
that's over.
Ah,
That's
it's tense.
it's
We kind
intense.
of just yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, you're looking at that distance. Have you your mindset? If you don't sign with a major league team, would you ever decide to? Now they have a newborn here, and that changes a lot of your travel as well. Your mindset. Would you go back to Japan or go somewhere else to play for another year or two?
It would depend on the situation. The offer really.
Yeah,
Um, again, having JR here and knowing how much he needs
yeah,
and like not I don't want to put that much pressure on Sam. Like
yeah.
she's been a godsend, but just having her do everything and then me not being able to be close enough to be there if I need to, it would depend on it would have to be the right situation. But I mean, it's always up in there.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. With your mindset now, I mean, you're when you go back and you obviously don't feel finished yet. You obviously still have
No,
something to give. Is there ever that mindset where it's like what I've learned, what I've accomplished, like translating that into the coaching realm and stuff? I know you say you run camps, but would you ever try to get into the coaching side and follow that into trying to make a career or a second career to stay in the actual game?
it depends on who asked me, and what role it would be, like where the coaching role would be, like where the start would be, like what their trajectory of the coaching career would be. Because you see that, like a lot of guys, same thing with coaches. As in, we're gonna have coaches on the podcast too, talking about their journeys through coaching and why they feel like they haven't gotten to get major league opportunities too, where you get lost in the shuffle again. Like, they feel like some guys are just there to fill spots, like some guys are buddies. Like there's just different things where depending on the relationship that I have and the teams that I've played for and where these guys would see me fitting into the organization would be something that I would have to consider. I mean, would I love coaching? Yeah. I mean, I love helping kids. I love helping people, just period. So, me being a coach, I was probably going to do lessons and camps and things of that nature anyway.
What a-
So, doing it on a bigger
what
scale
about
would
the
be.
college route? I mean,
I've
there
I've
there
actually had some. I've had some talks. I had a couple
there's some
talks.
decent money in there.
I've had some talks to a few schools
And it's something
over
you
the
probably
past
can
couple
stay
years to
local
ask me.
too, right?
It is. So it's going to put on the situation. My actual alma mater, even though I didn't graduate because I left early, Furman. I've talked to them a few times because I have my camp there every year, and
Yeah.
so we've been in constant contact. That would be a great. They lost their baseball program once they did all the sweeping changes through college baseball, softball with the teams and swimming and all that stuff. So they lost their program and plan on bringing it back hopefully sometime. And they asked me, you know, would I be interested? So that's a hypothetical coming up. And then I know there's probably some other schools floating around out there that might need a coach. And it just depends on who sends me messages and what the situation looks like. If it's a viable situation, it makes sense. I mean, I'm always down for it. Like I said, it's a new challenge. And again, it's a chance to help kids, chance to help young men become men. And so it would be
Yeah.
it's just different opportunities. I would love to dabble in it though for
I
sure.
love that. I love that you're saying that because I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday that um, he's a well-known coach in Ontario, and he trains a lot of kids. He's brought a lot of teams to the nationals and stuff like that. And exactly that. I mean, I'm coaching as well, and
Oh,
at a
awesome.
rep level, and you just love the bare fact that we were having this conversation. Like, I remember I have kids that I coached 5, 6 years ago. Like one of them the other day, I was at a facility and he saw me and he stopped with his dad and he just runs to the park and give me a big hug, Coach Jeff. And like, I'm like,
Yeah,
that means something. I have
it
letters of
does.
these kids that I coached for 3, 4 years at a rep level, and they even when I stepped down for personal reasons, I mean, they wrote letters of like, we appreciate everything you've done. Like, and you keep these things because
Yeah.
you're seeing these young boys grow into young men, and it's such an incredible feeling, right? That you're a big
It,
part of them.
and it's I have a funny story. It's like I started doing when I was with my ex-wife in Tennessee a long time ago. I did lessons at this little small like complex, and it was funny. Like I think it was like 4 years after that. Like I had moved from Tennessee, hadn't talked to the ex-wife in a while, things of that nature. Like it was crazy. Like I got a message from the kids like, "Hey, I made varsity, blah blah blah, this that and the third. Like stuff's better. Thank you for all the tips you should." I was like, yeah, like it makes you feel so much better, right? Like you're just like
Yeah,
I accomplished something. Like, because again, helping one person, like for me, helping one person can turn into helping two. That two can turn into four. Like it
it's
multiplies if positivity.
it's a domino effect, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Especially with positivity and happiness and like people doing what they actually love to do. Like, yeah, like as long as you're enjoying it, like it becomes infectious at a certain point. And like that's why you see the Blue Jays sign KK again. That man was one of the most he was a great leader. He's one of the most infectious people in that clubhouse. Like that energy, like teams need that energy on every team. Every championship team needs that, like for sure.
I was surprised when they signed him. I didn't think he was going to come back here, especially playing on AstroTurf. Everybody was saying with his knees and
It's
his
bad.
legs.
Yeah, it's bad. It's definitely bad for your knees.
Yeah, so I was very shocked, and in my head, I'm like, there must have not been that much interest out there if he came back because it's because I think he had a mindset of where he wanted to play. He pretty open with the Yankees or whatever, and
Yeah.
so I mean, he had a good career. He had a good season last year. He had a good season. Obviously, defensively, he's still. I mean, man, he is still at the
He's
best of the
like,
best.
yeah. And the coaching staff there, I give them credit too for how they aligned us in like the situations they put us in a lot of times too.
Yeah.
They put us in a lot of good situations for us to succeed more times than not. You don't get to see that a lot of times in, organizations like, you get there and then they just kind of throw you in. But those guys, like they had a pretty good plan for the most part, I would say. And like I enjoyed being there.
When you signed with the Jays, that was one thing that I guess I read in the media was you had other opportunities and you probably could have made me more money, but you came here. What was the reasoning coming here? Because you saw that you thought the Jays had a chance of doing like what was the reason
Yeah.
coming here? The young player, like what was your mindset?
Chance of winning a World Series and being part of something that was gonna
Special.
like yeah, that's what it is. Like, and honestly, like again, I tell my agent this all the time. I tell certain people this all the time. Like, low key under the like my career, I haven't missed the playoffs on any team I've been on in like 8 years. So like, I try to make sure I'm on teams that have a chance to go win a championship because like I want to be part of championships. Like, and I told the guys when I got there when I signed with Blue Jays, I was like, I see that we could do something special here. And the only thing that I'm missing from my resume really is a World Series like appearance, win, whatever. It's the only thing I feel like I'm missing. Like career can be complete after that for the most part, but like we have a chance to do something special here. I saw the team, Vladdy, Cav, Bo, Santi, like you see KK sign. I was watching all the moves they made before I made that decision to sign here. When I saw they signed Don too, and I saw the different pieces they were putting together, I was like, okay, they're trying to do something really special here. And I would like to be a part of it, especially playing against the Yankees and Red Sox a bunch. Like I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to be able to beat them too.
This offseason, with all the, I mean, that rumors and it was so crazy here, the media, because you're obviously not living here right now. Our media here was like, they were going to the airport to see if Otani was getting off a private jet. It was like 2, 3 days. They're like at the airport with cameras, like, oh, he's not on this jet. And it was leading the fan base to think of like they got him. They
Yeah,
got him.
100%.
They got him.
100%.
Which to me, I mean, obviously he is a unicorn and everybody thinks he's, but he's also coming off two Tommy Johns, and he might not even pitch again. So I'm like, these people are just going to throw all this money at him, whatever. That's another day altogether. I mean, so he's obviously one of the greatest players ever at this
He's
point.
gonna pitch again now. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, he is.
Pitch again. Nah, yeah. That like with him being him, just from me knowing him just a little bit that I do, and knowing the people around him and how he is, like his character, he'll pitch again. Like he's not gonna let a team sign him for that much money and not pitch again. Like that's gonna be on his. Yeah. He's like, I'm not gonna be able to win a World Series, help this team, and justify like this investment in me as me, a player and a person, if I don't give them what like my best is.
Did you watch a documentary on him on Amazon? They have a documentary on Amazon. Amazon,
really?
Disney. Yeah, Disney. A whole documentary on Disney with him, and it's and I think the narrator is Pedro Martinez. And it's pretty good. It's pretty interesting. They go through all his young coaches. They go through all his how driven he was from a young age and all his goals. And his goal was always from day one. He wanted to do both in the majors. That was his goal from day one, which is pretty incredible.
Well, yes.
Did you think the Jays had a chance of getting him? Did you think the Jays were going to get him? You did.
Yeah, huh? I had an inkling that, like, because I mean the fan base for the Jays would embrace him so much. I guarantee Ross and those guys were selling him on that, like how this fan base is.
You have a country behind you.
Whole country. And then, but you also look at LA being closer to Japan. It's warmer.
Yeah.
He played in Hokkaido his whole career in Japan, and it's cold as anything up there. That place is so cold. So for him to be like, I want to go play in a cold place again, it probably had something to do with it too. Even though the dome does stay pretty warm, I appreciate those guys for keeping that dome at a nice crisp temperature every day. But him just I think just being closer to home, I think had something to, and he's familiar. Like he had a routine. Like he's so routine oriented too. I mean,
that was part of the documentary. The documentary was he was obsessive routine.
To be an athlete to a certain degree, you have to be. I mean, to be successful in life to a certain degree, you have to have
anything.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for him to be that routine oriented and then take it to a whole nother country again, so that would be a second time doing it. I think that probably weighed on him a little bit too. But I think the Jays had a great chance to get him because, I mean, it's the stadium, the crowd, the fans. Again, that front office, like they're piecing things together slowly, but they know they have a plan in place. So I mean, I know Tony that I guarantee you they tried to sell him on that, and it's just I guarantee you they were runners up. I have to say they probably were.
How close do you think the Jays are piece wise when you look at the team right now and after last season?
So close.
They are
so close, and they're so close, and they're young too, and so it all pieces together. It's just, last year he was just up and it was baseball. That's the way I look at it. Every year is so different, and it's just baseball. You're gonna have ups and downs. Like Vladdy's not gonna have another year like that, and people want to give Vladdy like crap to a certain degree about the year he had. That man had a really good year.
Oh, 100%. His numbers were there.
It wasn't.
Yeah, I know that.
It wasn't a normal people expect Vladdy year, but you put those numbers into on any other team, nobody's going to complain about it. You know what I mean? He's going to help it. And so it was just one of those things where we were so close. We were teetering. I feel like if we could have got past the Twins, that momentum we would have had, we might have had a chance. It was just a matter of everything didn't fall into place. We just didn't get hot at the right time.
It's getting hot at the right time, getting just you always have that one or two guys in the lineup that just in the playoffs, it just turn MVP out of nowhere, right? And
it's like, where did Royce come from? Royce hit everything. It didn't matter what we threw him. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. But it's always like that. If you look at the history of the Jays, I mean, you go back to, I don't know if you're into the history of baseball, but if you go back to 92, 93 World Series, like Pat Borders MVP, it's catcher, like a guy that average catcher all of a sudden becomes MVP in the playoffs. So you always get those stories, right? In every sport, whether it's hockey or any other sport, you always get that one guy that just rises to the occasion when the time has to come, right? So that's
exactly.
Yeah. It's interesting you're saying. I mean, as obviously a local boy that's been a fan for a while, it's It's hard because you look at it and you understand that there's so many pieces to it, and everything's got to align perfectly, and everybody's got, and luck's,
Exactly.
like anything, luck's got to hit your side as well. And it's such a long season. I mean, it's such a long.
That's what people don't get. That's what people don't understand too. Like that, our season's the longest out of anybody.
Oh,
Everybody like
it's like double,
time frame time
just
time frame
double.
wise, like
Yeah,
we
game
play like
wise.
the same amount of days,
Yeah, but it's just
but
the
game wise,
travel.
we play twice as many games as everybody else in the same amount of time that they're playing
Yeah,
80 games or 16 games
yeah.
or 40 games. We're playing 160 games. Like it's and like you said, we're traveling. Like those guys will get days where they travel, have a day off, light practice, game. Well,
Yeah.
we're going flying, landing, sleep, game, flying, sleep, game. Like
Yeah.
so it's crazy, but like I said, like we all picked what we got into. We chose we really chose what we got into, right?
I'm gonna ask you one last question. When you're looking at your career and at this age, at 36,
Mm.
do you try to reinvent yourself ever? Like, do you try to add new pitches in? Do you try to change up stuff, or you just keep to what you know and just try to stay on top of everything at the best to your abilities?
I mean, you try to stay on top of everything that you have, like just so you don't lose it, but you always want to learn. I mean, that's the whole point for me for life.
Yeah.
You adapt, you figure it out. Like, I mean, I was a starter for half my career, so it's not changing anything. It's just okay. Well, these pitches have worked better for this point in time. Okay, if this doesn't work, then okay, I still have these other pitches that like I probably need to work more on than I used to. Like
Yeah.
now, because again, as you get older and you guys see you more and more, they start the analytics, the
Recognize,
cameras you
yeah,
have on you.
100%,
You see,
100%.
like back in the day, we didn't have all these cameras where guys can see. Okay, if I see your hand from a hitter like is at this angle, it's probably going to be a slider. Like they can see these things because they've seen so many films on them now. Whereas back in the day, it's just like I'm recognizing pitches. Like I might get the video after the game. The guys are going in and saying, okay, his arm slot was right there today. Like, all right, this is what he's throwing. If his arm slot's right there, just healing his arm slot. Like,
It's
so
crazy
it's
when you
different,
think it's insane when you think about that. I mean, I was
right?
watching a video of A-Rod, and he was talking about if he saw more white on the ball, it was a changeup. If he saw left white on the top left, it was a fat. Like he just by how much white he would see on the
Yeah,
ball, he knew exactly what pitch was coming at him. Which is
and
like
like
you
they
think about
and
that, that's crazy. At that,
and
and
that's
you
him
literally
then
have
with
1 second. You have literally, I'm gonna hit it or I'm not gonna
less
hit
than
it.
to say it.
Yeah,
Exactly. And now, like again, and now you have the advantages of the guys. Like I said, they have iPads to see every pitch that you're throwing right after it's done.
yeah, they're in the
So,
dugout. 100%. That's all that you see them now in the
and
dugout, just
so, I mean,
analyzing everything and talking to each
yeah,
other. So they're preparing the next guy up
exactly.
the bat, right?
Yeah, and I mean that's baseball's whole point, right? Is to have more offense, right? So it's more hitter driven, and they.
How did you enjoy the pitch call gadget this year?
Oh, I like the pitch comp. Pitch comps are all
It's
right.
pitch
Like
comp. That was it called. Yeah,
I don't mind those at all. I like the other stuff that they're doing with like changing the timing and pitchers clocks and stuff like that's getting like it's getting a bit annoying
did
to a
it throw
certain
off your
degree.
rhythm or help your rhythm? Because certain guys
It
it
can
help
do
their
either.
rhythm, right? When you look
It can
at
do either.
yeah,
It didn't help Kinley. It
no,
helped it helped Bassett.
yeah,
It didn't help guys at times. It doesn't
no.
help Kikuchi at times.
See, I thought
It
it
helped Manoa
Kikuchi.
at
You don't
times.
no,
It helped
that's I thought it helped Kikuchi. Everybody, that was one thing they kept saying because he did have a great year.
Kikuchi had a great year. It helped him when he had guys on base to a certain degree because he could take a step off and get his breath back.
Yeah,
So, but like the timing of that, like Kikuchi likes to take his time regardless anyway. Like
yeah,
I mean, most pitchers do. We're more cerebral than people give us credit for because we
yeah.
have to figure out. And so you're making us make a split second decision and not think about the situation, which is in turn to a certain degree causing more offense. But then when we try to change it up and step off here, mess with the pitch clock, we get in trouble for it. Like
Yeah.
we're trying to figure out the best way to get this guy out. Like that's
Yeah.
our job. Like, and you're kind of taking that away from us. So I feel like some guys it helped, some guys it didn't. For me, like I would go quick or slow anyway. I think as I've gotten older, like it's just making the adjustments. It's like, why are you changing? I get changing certain things of it, but
Yeah.
why are you changing it so drastically and not giving the players as much? like say so in it, where it's like, okay, we can tell you that we're going to change it, and even if we don't like it as players, we're still going to change it anyway.
Yeah.
So it doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah.
Like that, like for me, that's like it's cool, but it's not. Like we can compromise to these things. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be like one way or the other all the time. And that's what like I
How
feel
does
like
a change like that happen? It doesn't go through the player union and there's a vote, overall
it
vote.
it's there's in the CBA now
Yeah.
to approve rule changes, it's an owners group, players group, and an umpire. So
Yes.
like it has to be agreed upon. It doesn't have to be agreed upon. The owners get to pretty much decide the rules, and then they get opinions from the other two groups. But the owners can pretty much just still say like, we're going to change it anyway, but we're going to give you 2 months to incorporate it.
Interesting.
Like it's not. They just talk about it. It's having a casual conversation, and then the owners can be like, yeah, and then players and umpires can be like, okay, it makes sense or it doesn't. And if the owners like the reasons why it makes sense or it doesn't, then they might change it. But if they want the rule regardless, then it's there.
We're gonna talk about one more person because you brought him up, and Manoa. He came on bursting on the scene, all-star, killing it at the all-star game. Looked like the next great thing because if you look at the Jays, I'm trying to think of one guy that played this year but kept going up and down as well. God, I can't think of his name. Big boy, reliever, should have been a starter, throws
Nate
over. Yes, Nate
Pearson,
Pearson. That
Nate, my
guy,
guy, yes, love him.
Nate's been in everybody's back of their mind for the last 6 or 7. Like that guy, we as a fan base, we were told he
Pure
was going to
stuff.
be the saver of this team for years, and he was going to be the
100%,
the
yeah.
ace of the team, and
You can see
it's
why.
never 100%. The guy throws heat. He's got the body. He's got this. He's got the. I mean, he's incorporated a great curveball. Like he has all the tools. It just doesn't stay prolonged for
Hasn't
long
clicked.
enough
Yeah,
time.
hasn't clicked.
Hasn't clicked, and at this point, will it click? That's the scary part, right? But
It should. It
you look
should.
at
I talk to
Manoa.
him a lot. Yeah.
Manoa is a guy that just went from minor here. Like it was just there. He jumped to the majors pretty quickly, and just
Yeah.
had star power right off the bat. The confidence, that cockiness, that chip on the shoulder, where to be a major league pitcher, you have to have that belief in yourself, and he had it. How did he lose it?
It,
Is it a mindset? Is it? I mean, I don't
that's
think
a
the
mind. That's
tools.
like for him, I think it's all mindset at this point. And that's nothing negative to say about him, but like he's just
No,
gotta he's
I'm a
got to
huge fan. I think the guy is
like
amazing.
he's still got the same stuff. He's just gotta like I think he felt like just the disagreements between him and the organization got to a point where he let it interfere with his work. You know what I mean? To a certain degree where he should have he can figure it out only if he wants to figure it out at this point. Like it's either gonna be he's gonna come back and be like, I'm gonna be better and I'm gonna show you guys that like I'm better, or he's gonna be like, yo,
I
you gotta get me out of
questioned.
here and
Yeah,
like I need to go somewhere else.
I
I don't know
questioned
what he
his.
wants to do.
I questioned the second time they sent him back down. I was like, why are they sending him down? Because he had 3 or 4 decent outings, and then all
Yeah.
of a sudden, where it was announced he was being sent down, and then it was that whole thing where I guess he never actually went and all that stuff, and everybody's on the low key with it all. But that's beside the point, right? I mean, that's the private
Yeah,
stuff.
that was a whole funky situation. Like that again, I feel like that plays into his mindset too though. Like he like I get where and why he would feel that way.
Yeah,
But for him to be a leader and to take that next step to be the best ball player he's gonna be, is he's gotta take a mindset of, okay, like, yeah, I don't agree with it, but I'm gonna show you why I don't agree with it and not just be like, hey, like
yeah.
I don't agree, so I'm just gonna shut down. You can't shut down in the situation because you only get worse for
Yeah,
me.
I agree. I
So
agree. I agree. I
and
mean, you
and
look
like I
at.
said, I love the kid. Like I love him to death. Like it's big. He's like a big teddy bear, and
Yeah,
he's got a great personality. He tries to go about things the right way. He's real fiery, and I think he's just the mindset that he needs to get back to is just the confidence level and just going out there and just being almost like a bully. But he needs to bully himself into being a bully. He can't take a step easier on himself and be like, oh well, it's the organization's fault or something like that. He's got to be like, you know what, like even if they did that, I got to be better too. Because I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, like we needed him to be better if we were going to make some noise too, and
Yeah,
it
100%.
didn't work,
Him
and it didn't work
missing
till
him was a huge
exactly.
season. I mean, that you're looking
And
on 10, 12, maybe 15 wins. That could have been a difference
well, not
from
even
positioning, right?
that. Just the end of the year when all that stuff was going down. Like
Yeah.
if he's in the right mind frame too, if we have him in, I don't know if it's him in the front office that needed to like come to some sort of peace where he was getting his mind right too. But like we needed him at the end of that stretch where we could have used him in a whole bunch of different fashions, and just his presence could have been enough to help us get to a certain point. You know what I mean? Instead of everything just kind of falling by the wayside and shutting down, which I mean, things are going to happen. And like you said, you live, you learn. Hopefully, they both learned from it as an organization, and he learned as a person. His camp learned as a person and as a family, and they come back and figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of his. I mean, I just loved his mindset. Loved his.
Yeah,
I loved how
100%.
he brushed guys off the plate. He just had this presence of him, right? Almost like a Roger Clemens. Like didn't have the speed,
Yeah,
but that Roger Clemens intense on the mound,
yeah,
that
100%.
drive. And but I look at him and when you talk about mindset or things, it makes me think of a guy like Ricky Romero, where all star. You know who Ricky Romero is? Yeah,
Yeah,
all
I know
star.
who Ricky is. I know who
Of course,
Ricky
yeah,
is.
yeah. I mean, but I mean, all star, and then all of a sudden went and never ever could get it back. And I look at him and I'm like, I hope it doesn't fall the same route where it's like
And
all
I'm
star and
hoping,
never get
yeah,
back, right? Because he's so young still, right?
yeah, and I'm hoping that again, like he takes and learns from this mindset, and he learns from the things that happened this year. Like that's all you can hope that guys do, especially younger guys. You hope
Yeah.
that they learn from not only the mistakes or faults that they're having at that point in time, but they learn from the mistakes and stuff of guys like me and other guys that they've seen. Where there's probably a couple guys that have hit them up and been like, hey, you probably could have handled that better. Like
Yeah.
that have gone through it before. Maybe there has, maybe there hasn't. But like, does he take that advice from those guys and learn from it and try to get better from it, or does he, like I said, sit where he's at? Like, because again, like he's got two choices: he can stay where he's at, or he can move forward and like keep the train rolling. Like that's the only like. And if you stay stuck, like the results might be the same. Like that's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
you don't want to keep the same results. Like if you're trying to be great, I think he's trying. I think he has the mindset to be great, and he wants to be great. So it's just tapping into it and enjoying it. Like you got to
The
go.
Jays, I mean, the Jays really need him to get back to the level he was at this year. I mean, for them to be a contender, they need him in that lineup.
No, for sure, they definitely need him. They need him in just a facet of like again, like either it's going to be in the rotation, mid relief, like however they need to piece them together. Because I mean, again, the starting depth isn't there in the minors, but you still have Ricky come in at some point. How are you going to use Ricky? Like if that's the case, like
I'm excited for that.
Ricky's
My son's
like
my son's a lefty pitch.
Manoa
My son's a left-handed pitcher, and I'm like, he's my son's been following Ricky, and it's like you just drool over this kid, man. His potential is
like,
just
and
next level.
you could have Manoa and Teed as a 1-2 punch coming up at some
Yeah.
point. If
Yeah.
again, if Manoa decides that's what he wants to be, if he wants to be the ace of that staff, then you got to go work and be the ace of that staff. Like that's a mindset that he's going to have to take.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping he does, because I mean, you have Gaz, you have Bass, you have Cooch, like you have guys that you can follow after that, like have good rapport, have good work ethics, and
you can't. I mean,
can
you
show you how to be it.
just two of those guys. I mean, you look at Gosman. I mean, just his work ethic.
You look at guys and
his
Hosey.
career.
Hosey, look at Hosey. Like these guys that you
I
have
forgot
in
about
that
Hosey.
starting
Yeah,
rotation.
he had a decent year too.
Hosey had a great year.
Yeah,
Hosey, like again, each starter that we had in that rotation at certain points in the season carried our team on their backs for probably 3 or 4 starts at certain points.
Yeah,
and that's all you can ask
did
for.
as well at the beginning of the season. He really carried that team. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Guys carried us for a while. Cooch, when he was going through lights out for a while. Hosey carried us for when he had like
Bassett with his 8 or 9 pitches.
He just adds more and more every year. He adds more every year. Like I need to text him like, hey, you got
if you look at his pitches, I mean, just from an outsider, I mean, I would say 4 or 5 of them, they all look the same, but he just calls them something different.
They're all, but and they all move at different
Yeah, that's
that's why
crazy.
it's so crazy. Because
Yeah,
like he'll have his changeup that'll move just a little bit, and then he'll have a split that moves the same, but it moves more. He'll have
yeah,
a cutter that moves, he'll have a slider, he'll have a curveball. It's
yeah,
sweeper, like
yeah,
but he uses them so effectively too.
yeah. It's
That's what I'm
crazy.
saying.
It's so
And
crazy.
he knows how to he knows what he's doing. He knows how to
Yeah,
pitch. He knows
yeah. I mean,
again, you take the rotation that the Blue Jays have, like there's not really one better in all of baseball for me, honestly. And that's just
yeah,
from the outside looking in. If you look at the year those guys had
yeah,
and how they pitched and how they pitched together,
yeah.
there's not really for me like a, a better
No,
starting
no,
four.
no.
If and you throw Manoa in there when he gets back, how many rotations are really gonna be better than that?
No,
And then you
no,
look at the
no.
bullpen with or without me.
Yeah,
You have Roby, you have Swanee, you got Tim. Like
yeah.
those guys just go on and on. You
Tim,
got Cabby now.
Tim had it
You got
such.
Cabby now.
Yeah,
Cabby Cabrera is a low key. Like that was one of the best finds I give Ross Strider.
yeah. He's good.
Cabrera,
No, he's
like
good. He's good. He's good.
Cabrera is
Even Tim, like that.
Yimi's up and down, but
Yeah, yeah,
Yimi's
yeah,
so consistent over his career. If you look at Yimi's career, he's
yeah.
been and Yimi still throws the living daylights out of the ball too. And
Yeah.
he's got great poise out there. You trust him out there. Like that bull, like they put a staff together that anybody would want to be a part of.
Yeah.
It's just like I said, they got to make some moves. They got to do some things. They again, like
It's crazy
Manoa's
as
just
they were
as
known.
far as
If you
Manoa, he's
look
got
at
to get his
2
mindset.
years ago, they were more of that. They were bursting at the next big offensive team, and their pitching was down. And then it just kind of rotated, where it's like their pitching
Yeah,
is here, and
and but you still have
they're hitting kind of left, right? Because obviously you got
yeah,
Kirk.
it's like
Kirk didn't have the season they thought he was
exactly.
having.
Jano was hurt.
Yeah, yeah. Jano, that was a big thing.
Jano got
Yeah, Jano
hurt.
was hurt.
Chappie didn't have his normal year that he normally had. He
Well, he
started off
started off
hot and
on
then,
fire, then
but
fell
that's what I'm
off.
saying. Like,
That's
but
another thing too. Yeah,
he's normally more consistent than
yeah.
that. So you take that into account.
He's still a free agent, huh?
Again,
He
Vlad,
might still watch him end up coming back
that's going to be a tough fit because I mean,
financially.
it's a financially, but I think defensively wise too. Because like, who's going to be the DH now? Do you move Vladdy from first? Like you.
Yeah, yeah.
You put Vladdy the full time DH, but Vladdy's not going to want to do that because that takes his earning potential down later on. So
Yeah.
he's not going to want to do that. And he plays really
He
good.
plays well. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
he's young. And he's the corner of your franchise. Like you're not going to want to move him. You're not going to move him or Bo unless like you get
yeah.
arm and a leg. You know what I mean? So just from fit wise, I think after they sign IKF, like after that, like it's a tough fit just on paper.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because Isaiah, like he plays great D too, but is he Chappie D? Like
No.
Chappie's platinum. Chappie's platinum. Like you know what I mean? Like that's tough.
There's not many in the league that could play that corner like he does.
You trust like any ball that goes to the left side of the infield, especially if it goes to third base, like and Chappie's over there.
You trust it. And there's nothing more as a pitcher, there's nothing more you could praise as having a great center fielder that could really, really cover ground and a great third baseman, right?
Great guys up the middle, short.
Yeah,
got third, like you take those all day. So they're piecing it together slowly, and it's just I wonder what moves they're going to make next. It'll be interesting to see. I'm excited for them. Like I said, I love.
Hopefully, you'll be back. You never know.
I'm hoping so. Like I said, I've been in contact with them a few times. They reach out every now and then. I've had a few teams reach out. It just hasn't been any true offers that like I really would want to take it this time when I've seen what other guys are getting in similar situations. And so it's just
would you take? I mean, I shouldn't. You probably wouldn't want to say this, but would you take a little less just to keep your career going for a couple more years? At this point,
I think it depends on the situation, like where I would be at, like because every year I've really been up so far.
Yeah,
it's always been up and then down, then up, then down. So I haven't got my full salary ever when I've been in big leagues, no matter like what.
So that's how that. So when you sign a contract, for example, that you're 1.5 for the Jays, you're not getting that because you're up and down. Interesting. I thought that was a set contract.
I didn't. It was.
Is it set that you have to play a certain amount of games to get that, or how does that work?
No, it's prorated for the days that you're up there. So,
oh shit,
my salary changes every time I will go up and down. That's why for me, like this year's, I want to make sure that like if I get a deal, like it's gonna be
It's
a deal
set.
that's been a yeah, and like so if you want to just because like I said before, every time I've been sent down to the minors in my career, it's never been for performance, which is kind
No,
of crazy for me.
no, no.
And like when I was with the Padres, it wasn't because the season was over, but
Yeah.
then Brewers every time it wasn't for performance from what they told me, and then San Francisco it wasn't for sure, and then
Yeah.
Atlanta, they barely gave me like a little chance. And then last year, every time it was, oh well, we need a spot, like blah blah, you got options, like. And I mean, those are the conversations I've had every time. It's been like, hey, like we'd love to have you. You are a big leaguer. You deserve to be here. But again, like we
We have
got to
options.
go.
We have options with you. Yeah. Yeah.
So
I had no
this is the
clue.
year
I
I'm
thought
like,
I just assumed, and I mean that's what the public will assume is when
yeah,
you sign a contract like that, that's what you're getting. I didn't
no,
realize it was prorated. That makes a
yeah,
huge difference.
yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. This has been a great conversation, buddy. We're well past an hour. I do want to have you back on, and
Yeah, whenever.
we're gonna keep in contact after this. 100%. Get your number and all that before you're
Sure.
done because I think there's some stuff I can
I'll
help you
be.
with.
I was about to
Let
say I'll be up there close next week. So
you are for what are you doing up
I'm
here?
going to the sports thing in outside of Toronto, like for uh I think it's for the Special Olympics or something like that. I'm doing a baseball camp that like yes, Simber and Romero did last year.
Oh, very cool.
Mike Wilner asked me if I would come help for like do it this year, and so yeah, I'm gonna be up there next week.
Do you know where it is? Where it's being
Being
held
back
at?
again. Wilner
Well,
knows.
messing me after on that.
Yeah, for sure.
But
So
okay,
I'll be back
where
up
can our
there
audience
enjoying.
where can your audience get a hold of you with social media platforms, websites, your clothing brand? We didn't even really talk about, but let's give a shout out to that so we can promote that. And I'll put on the show
Yeah,
links and all the notes and all that as well, links and
yeah,
all
for
that
sure.
stuff.
For
So
sure. My own brand, I am Jay, but no, my Instagram and Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, whatever it is now, is Jackslim58 because it's just, I mean, I'm the president of Jackslim. It started from a long time ago in Japan. Like we had a little crew of people. It was funny. It was like a bunch of foreigners in Hiroshima,
yeah.
and I would just go out and we would hang out, and they were like, oh, like we should just call this like our little group Jackson. I was like, because you're Jackson, like it's just like the land. I was like, all right, cool. And then like they're like, well, you're the president. I was like, whatever. So it just kind of trended from there, and so now we're Jackson. So it's a welcoming place. And then you have Jackson 58 for IGX, and then www.teamjacksland.com is the website for the clothes. Just hoodies, pants, shorts, everything. Just I like create my own stuff from time to time, having fun. I get bored and like to create stuff. I'm working on a few things here and there just to keep the creative juices flowing. So
And your
everything's flowing.
podcast, your whole thing will launch a lot sooner than
Spring
later.
training.
And
Yeah,
what's it
hopefully
called? What's it going to be called? Do you have a name yet?
we're debating on a few names right now. We have a few. We want to make it catchy enough, but get our point across that like the storytelling is from like guys that like grind it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I
yeah,
wanted to
yeah,
have a grindy name, but like something that's
yeah.
gonna be appealing to people that want to listen. Because I feel like these stories need to be heard from people, and I feel like honestly, like these stories need to be heard and shared to people to get more interest in baseball.
Yeah,
To
yeah,
some of these other communities, like because I know a lot of these guys have fans in their hometowns and stuff, and there's kids out there that
yeah.
might that might be in a similar situation. Be like, hey, you know what, like.
If they could do it, I could do it.
Exactly. So we haven't came up with a true name yet. We already have a couple recorded. We just don't have a name for it.
Yeah.
But hopefully it'll be dropping soon. Hopefully in the next few weeks.
You
That's
send it
the
to me.
goal.
Send it to me,
Next
and
few.
I'll promote it and push it for you as well.
I appreciate it, Jeff. I appreciate everything. Thanks for having me on.